Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wrong Side of History.
Like this guy.
Yeah, this obviously was named after all of Lee's opinions and the way he just generally sees the world.
Sandbagging me to start, I see.
I'm not sandbagging, it's just accuracy. I'm Ben Gleib, very excited to be here on our debut pilot episode.
That's right.
I'm
Lee Trink.
Lee Trink.
Here for the slaughter.
That's very self-aware. Oh, I thought you meant aware of your own slaughter. Well, we disagree on pretty much everything, although these days lines are a little bit more blurred.
That means he's actually seeing reality.
It means I'm open-minded. I don't blindly see things in a partisan way, only the way Lee does.
I've voted Republican and Democrat over the last number of years, so don't get me that way.
What Democrat have you voted?
I voted for Biden, unfortunately.
You voted for Biden?
Yeah, it was a colossal mistake.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, well.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, I believed media. You still are listening to them, evidently. So
you don't listen to the media at all?
Not legacy.
You just do your own research on everything.
I mean, legacy media is a great way to be indoctrinated into some, grade A bullshit, but.
I love that. That's why we actually thought it was a good idea to do this podcast, because everybody these days is so in a silo, is so in a social media bubble, echo chamber, where you only really hear from your own side. And so often when people like trickle in the comments, they're like, you're on the wrong side of history, bro. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's it. What you always get is one view, or if you get a mixed view, it's like a token. You've got four people on one side and one token, on the other side to beat up, and we want to get a little parity.
Yes, parity, not parody.
Maybe both.
Well, it depends how long you go on, I suppose. Cheers. We did agree to meet and have a drink together.
That's right.
This is some whiskey we're both having. You're having bourbon. I'm having Irish whiskey. Like a real American. I realize that makes
Bourbon's
from
sense. Kentucky.
It's a strong point. It's a very strong point.
He's already starting on the right foot with, real.
No, I'm already admitting something that I was wrong
defeat.
No, just admitting how open-minded I am. So we're going to cover 4 topics today.
That's right.
And we're going to get through them. We're going to dive into them and find out where we agree and disagree eventually. And then we are going to see if we learned anything or change our minds on anything. The 4 topics will be the trans bill that has been proposed in Arkansas by a Republican legislator that is trying to stop they're trying to hold people liable for the social transition of minors. We're going to talk about the Signal chat fiasco, letting war plans be discussed in a vulnerable channel with a reporter there. We're going to talk about Elon, DOGE,
maybe Tesla.
Yeah, all of that stuff, some of the cuts, whether the way they're going about it is good or not. And then we're going to talk about deportations, whether they are potential Venezuelan gang members or whether they are potential Hamas supporters or not. And we'll dive into if it's being done properly. Where do you want to start?
Let's get it done. Let's start. Signal is on everybody's minds, so we might as well kick off with what happened in the Signal chat. If people don't know, there's been some controversy around administration members that were part of a Signal chat. Signal is a communication app, kind of like a WhatsApp or Telegram or.
So WhatsApp for drug dealers.
Yeah, it's meant to be encrypted. It's meant to not really leave much of a trace. It's used for people who don't really want to leave a footprint over what they're communicating.
Yes, but it is not secure like a SCIF is secure, where you're supposed to normally discuss classified things like war plans. And new Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was sharing very specific details about an impending attack on Houthi rebels in Yemen over Signal, and Tulsi Gabbard was in there. Vice President J.D. Vance was in there.
Mike Waltz,
the National Security Director, Marco Rubio was in it.
He was in it.
He was?
Maybe.
I don't think he wasn't in it. Marco Rubio was not in it.
He was not in it.
No, there was no Rubio. There was, he wasn't. I take it back. Marco Rubio was in. You're right
Alex
again.
Wong, the deputy security advisor.
Stephen Miller, amateur Nazi white supremacist, Deputy White House Chief of Staff was in there.
This is supposed to set the table for the facts before we get into it, but evidently it's not going to work out.
Steve Witkoff, the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, who, by the way, was replying to these Signal messages while in Moscow, meeting with Putin.
Maybe with Putin.
He was. And then, of course, accidentally, Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, who was added to the chat by Mike Waltz, inadvertently, supposedly.
So why don't you kick off your view of what went wrong over here?
Okay, my view is that this was an egregious sloppiness and very hypocritical thing for the Trump administration higher-ups to do. You're not supposed to ever discuss war plans, attack plans in any sort of detail or even at all when they are secret missions. If that gets out, it can risk the lives of our service members. It can alert our enemies. It's supposed to be done literally only in a SCIF, which is a secured area where phones aren't even allowed in them. No recording devices are allowed in. They're fully secured, soundproof walls. The Situation Room in the White House is one of them. And instead, they were doing it just wherever they happened to be, at dinner, in Moscow, around D.C., whoever's around, in an open chat on a phone. Anybody could have glanced over the shoulder, let alone enemies could have easily gotten in there. Witkoff was in Russia. Putin's
well, look, you're presuming you're making some presumptions about him sitting on the sofa with Putin, texting his friends. It's unlike. Okay, well let's talk about what we actually know.
Gafford's been certainly accused of being a Russian asset, and so the people that are in here. That's unnecessary fact to say.
It's just not going to be.
I withdraw it.
Okay, thank you. Let's just talk about what we actually know, not supposition.
Sure, fair enough.
That's so.
And then they were so loose with it that Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, added a reporter to the chat and was unaware, and they were just having this conversation. I literally, if I like a girl and I'm in a Signal chat or a WhatsApp chat, I click and make sure that this person's not in it. You double check who's in the chat. But for security secrets and attack plans, they weren't even aware who the hell was in the damn thing. And that's obviously egregious. And to me, what's more egregious is just how strident all Republicans, and especially Pete Hegseth, who is leading this, have been. So many clips come out of Hegseth on Fox News decrying Biden keeping the classified files by his Corvette in the garage, decrying Hillary Clinton's email server, saying if anybody did any of these things and it wasn't Hillary Clinton, they would be thrown in jail. Only Hillary gets away with this. And then they do it, something much worse, about an active to-happen attack plan imminent. And they say, oh, it's no big deal. It's a lie. The reporter's full of shit. He's a piece of shit.
We get it. So look, it was a colossal mistake. Undoubtedly colossal mistake. Now, I think why people are making so much hay over this, it's really the first big blunder that the Trump administration has done. And look, I get it. This is the times we live in, and so everybody is pouncing.
First big blunder. We're only 2 months in. This isn't like 2 years.
No, okay.
Should have hopefully zero big blunders. It'd be nice.
We can all aspire to that. We don't usually get that from government, but look, it was a big mistake, and I think a couple of things. One thing is, we're not sure. It hasn't been determined yet whether this was classified information or not, right? The administration is saying this is not classified information. Some people are saying this was. I think the reality is neither of us really understand enough about the details of what constitutes classified information, but there's going to be an investigation about this. Now,
I disagree with that point strongly.
I mean, that's been part of the debate, right? At least at the moment, the administration is saying these were not classified. Of course, the
administration is saying it because the Trump administration is classically horrible at taking responsibility for anything, and they just claim everything is fake news they don't like.
Like the Democrats take responsibility for anything.
But they do much better. For example, when Biden was found with those classified documents, he didn't stonewall for months like Trump did and pretend he didn't have.
You mean like Hillary did when she had her email?
Okay, so I grant you, Hillary stonewalled.
I'm just saying.
But Biden, take the last 2 administrations, Biden said, "You're right. I had those. Shouldn't have them. You can take them back."
So
he did admit when he's wrong.
So I guess the reality is, every administration has made errors like this.
Well, no, those are old, not like this, because those are old information about things that were long gone. This is active about an imminent attack.
We're talking
in
about
the broad category. But let me just finish disputing your point, though, about classified information really quickly, because, of course, they're saying it's not classified, but even plenty of Republican senators...
It's yet to be determined.
Plenty of Republican senators saying, of course it's classified. Anybody who has a military background says, of course it's classified. Hegseth himself said anything that talks about imminent war plans with any sort of specificity is classified. It's always supposed to be done in a SCIF for that reason. He said that back on Fox News before he was responsible for it.
It should have been handled in a SCIF for sure.
Yeah,
I think but there's something interesting going on also, even within Republicans. the blame they're putting the bullseye on Pete Hegseth, when in reality it's Mike Waltz who is, number one, responsible for security, right? He's the national security advisor. Number two, he's the one who added somebody outside of the intended chat.
Well,
right?
he's got to go.
I just think it's notable that the ire is going around Pete Hegseth, and he was, when it's a chat that has been created by Mike Waltz, I would think he's thinking this is information that we can talk about. Now, the other thing that I think is important is that Signal is an approved app for government use. Certainly not for classified information, but it is an approved app for government use.
Okay, fair enough. And the cafeteria at the White House is an approved cafeteria for eating food.
It is.
Doesn't have anything to do with classified stuff. And so I agree with you. But I think the reason that Hegseth has the target on his back for this because he's the one that was sharing all the classified info, and he's the Secretary of Defense, and he is supposed to be the one. He was the one communicating it. They can all be on a Signal channel they want and say "Go America," yay, fire emojis like they did in this case. But he was the one sharing the incredible details, probably to try to look cool in front of his group of
That's probably the reason.
Higher ups there. But I think both of them need to probably go for this. Do you agree at least Mike Waltz should resign? It's incredible sloppiness. He's the advisor of national security.
I think Mike Waltz is the one that's really in trouble for this.
You think he should resign?
I think he probably should resign.
Great.
I think he probably should.
I
I don't know that he should be fired over it, but I think resigning is, look, this is a big mistake. It's a big black eye for the administration, unfortunately. And, again, I'm not going to concede that it's classified information. It doesn't look good. It's terrible. It's terrible. I don't want to mince words about that. This was a big blunder, but let's see how that's determined.
Okay.
And let's see what happens with Mike Waltz.
And what culpability do you feel for Pete Hegseth there being the one who people already criticized going in? He's green. He has a drinking problem. He drinks too much. I've heard somebody very funny meme called this whiskey leaks, which I think is hilarious. Granted, we are drinking whiskey ourselves, but we're also not in charge of national security. No. And was just sharing all of these details.
I think if it's a chat set up by Mike Waltz, and I think probably the delta between what would be considered classified and what he shared was the level of detail on it. And look, but it's not good. It's not good. But I don't think this is one where Hegseth gets fired over. I don't think he should get fired.
Generally speaking, do you think Hegseth is qualified to be the Secretary of Defense for America?
I think that
based on what?
Based on the fact that
being the Fox News weekend guy?
No, he has an illustrious career in the military. And was it
illustrious?
It was. Here's what's apparent. What's apparent is, for too long, we've had bureaucrats and politicians running the military. They are too far away from the action. They don't understand what the men and women of the military need. So I actually think, and even if you look at a broader sense of who Trump is putting in, he is putting people in that are closer to the action. We've somehow believed that gray hair is the touchstone of competence, and that's not true. A lot of times what happens is you can get out of touch. You sometimes spend so much time dealing with things that are so far away from.
But I agree with the general point. But Pete Hegseth was the best choice out of the military, you think?
I didn't say he was the best choice out of the military.
Shouldn't you choose the best choice?
No, I'm saying personally, I'm not aware. I didn't look at what the candidates were. So far, I like everything out of his mouth. I like how he talks about the military. I like how he talks about what the military needs. And I think, just look at what happened right after the election. The people applying to join the military grew dramatically. Why? They've got confidence in Trump. They've got confidence in Hegseth. And it's showing that the proof is in the pudding. People are signing up to be part of the military. And I didn't know that's been an issue.
I didn't know that. So, okay. And I didn't realize this is a silly point. Before we move on to the next story, can you admit it's very dumb, the red, white, and blue pocket square Hegseth keeps wearing in his suit jacket?
Is it fashion? Is it? And listen, it's not.
Well, but it's like you don't need to cosplay patriotism. Hey, you are the Secretary of Defense. America. It's silly.
I will end with America.
It's like if you What's he gonna wear next? Like a red, white, and blue suit?
It's not what I would choose.
Okay, great.
As my go-to.
I'm glad
Then again,
finally
I'm usually wearing
conceded
black
that
T-shirts
point.
on
You
camera,
are
so.
with the world's biggest Jewish emblems.
Yes,
I love that. I wear Jewish emblems, but a lot smaller.
Yeah, no, I'm making up for the people that don't wear them.
That's nice of you.
And I'm trying to put
You have to wear a much bigger one then.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like I feel like I'm like semi-billboard.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You're a very strong man. You're a good representative for us. Our next story we wanted to discuss is just DOGE in general, Elon in general, Trump's approach to just have this unelected bureaucrat who's supposed to get rid of unelected bureaucrats for some reason.
Let me ask
you
a
non-American born guy in charge.
Why are you focused on the fact that he was unelected? Why is that a big deal even? Really? There are untold amount of government workers that are unelected. By the way, before you answer that, let me remind you of a couple of things. This agency existed. Now, first of all, it was created under Obama. It existed under
What
Biden.
was created under Obama?
The original. They just renamed an agency DOGE. It was the USDS. It was the United States Digital Service, created under Obama.
To do what?
It was mainly to modernize a lot of the technology aspects.
Right. And that's what digital. It was for digital services. They're just taking the name of a thing so they can operate legally. They're doing a completely different mission here.
It's slicing
and dicing and cutting out.
It's not a totally different mission. It's not a totally
to do with digitizing and bringing it to the digital era.
By the way, of course it is.
Cutting out organizations or firing people blindly.
They're using technology to get to the bottom of the rat's nest of government spending. And let me look.
So why am I obsessed with the fact that he's unelected?
Well, yeah, why?
Is the fact that it's an unprecedented level of power and autonomy given to an unelected person.
Number one,
of course, there are tons of unelected people, but they don't usually get to say on their own, what we're going to do is get rid of USAID completely and abandon all of our
and guess what?
And let children get AIDS in another country.
100% of his decisions are just suggestions that have to be approved by the president. These are all the president or oftentimes it's Marco Rubio. If it's something that's under, like USAID is under Mark Rubio. So Elon makes suggestions. He doesn't do the cutting. He's got read-only access to all of this information.
To all of our personal information.
That's right. Yeah. Like a lot of people in the government.
That owns
Twitter. Like a lot of people in the government have access to our information. And he's just one of them. What do you think Elon is doing with our information?
I think a power-hungry person who has proved that all he wants to do is
He's the richest man in the world. How much more power can he have?
You think the richest man on earth should also have access to all of our personal information?
I think the richest man on earth.
Privacy matter not at all.
I think the richest man on earth that figured out how to make electronic vehicles a profitable company, an exponentially massive profitable company, a guy who's been able to shoot rockets into space, a guy who's working
sketchy hit rate on those rockets.
No, not at all.
Two of his recent ones exploded in midair.
That's what shooting rockets into space is.
It's not typically how it's done.
No, it is. Of course it is.
It's not typically a hit rate
of
them.
Go look at NASA's history. Tons of rockets failed. It's part of it is experimentation. He's experimenting on how to refine some of these things. The guy is literally our Einstein, the Einstein of our generation.
Einstein of our generation?
Yeah, that's right. Who the left
worshipped. Just hires smart people. He hasn't created any of these
companies. He's just
created any of these
things. It's just an accident that he did Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink and he's turned around X.
He's a very smart guy. He's turned around X to become a platform that is now overrun by white supremacists and Nazis.
It's always had. Is
that why you like it so much?
Yeah, that's it. It's always had that problem. But let me tell you something.
Worse.
If you didn't know,
up by an order of magnitude since he took over.
If Elon
by making it about free speech, he simply meant getting back on the platform.
He's
even reinstituted Kanye again.
He's in business. And look, I happen to be a free speech absolutist, like nearly absolutist.
So free speech absolutist that you're cool with the Sig Heil that he did on the day of the inauguration.
I mean, that's also Let me explain.
Please,
I'll give you a reason. First of all, the guy's an awkward
Hebrew symbol on your chest. How did you feel about that Sig Heil?
It was so clear to me that it was like Elon spastic energy. Like that's
Get
what it was.
Out of town. It was twice in a row.
Oh my God.
Diligently done with military precision.
Here's what I will say directly about this thing.
Yep.
Let me get it out, and then you feel free.
Getting twitches in my eyes is so difficult for me to talk about.
Feel free to comment.
Thank you so much for the permission.
Who were criticizing? It was so interesting to me that the people that were finally defending Nazism, AOC, who never talked about the hostages, never said any, like she went and visited the college campuses. She supported them. She cried when the Iron Dome funding got passed. It's interesting that she all of a sudden woke up to be the defender against Nazism. So I call bullshit on that, number one. Number two.
It's a total topic change, but okay.
No, it's not. All of the people that were complaining.
I think AOC is horrible on the issue of anti-Semitism. I agree with you on that.
All of the people that were complaining have never, as a matter of course, defended any other behavior, including actual Nazism. The other thing.
No, I'm complaining, and that's not true.
There was Tim. I saw like a series of videos. Tim Walz, AOC herself, Kamala Harris, all doing similar.
No,
it was.
That's not true.
It's bull.
When you see the full video of that, their hand for a second gets in that position.
Not true.
It wasn't actively, aggressively doing it. But
we're wasting people's time.
Hold on a second. We're not wasting nothing because you just want to change topics. You want to be able to do your little rant and then move topics on. But allow me to retort, even if I grant you, because I don't think Elon is like
you think he's a Nazi?
I don't think he's a Nazi. I don't think he's an anti-Semite.
Let me ask you this. You think he was doing a Nazi salute
yes,
on that stage?
Yes, I do. And I'll tell you why he did it. I'll tell you why I think he did it.
Yeah, well.
Not because he's a Nazi, because he and Trump both are completely comfortable and willing and wanting to empower any misanthrope, any asshole, any white supremacist, any neo-Nazi that will just be another foot soldier in their army, in their potential army, in their future trying to coup the government again like they did the first time. And if you disagree, Lee, then explain to me if it was accidental and him being spastic, and he's in any way a responsible enough human being that should be in charge of deciding what government programs get cut and which don't, which, ironic side point, none of his supposed cuts so far are to the grants to his own companies. Amazing.
He doesn't get grants.
So we'll get back to that in a second. We'll get back to that in a second. But if it was just him being spastic, then how would any responsible person not immediately go on X that he posts on all day long and not immediately say, to clarify, I'm mortified at how that looked. People think it was a Nazi salute. Let me clarify very clearly. I disavow all Nazism. I disavow white supremacy. I'm so sorry I did that accidental motion. And also, how come Trump didn't say the same thing? Because they want to empower the people. Because Trump, during a presidential debate, says, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. You can't be okay with these things. And if not, answer the question. Why didn't he do that? Why didn't either of them disavow it outright?
I'll tell you why. Because, and I subscribe to this, and I've worked with people who subscribe to this. There are people who, the thought police and the cancel police are there like hounds to jump on you. And guess what? As soon as you capitulate to them, you give them power. What you do is you've now rewarded the utter nonsense. And I think it's utter nonsense.
That's
insane. It was so clearly spastic. No, hold on. And by the way, I agree with that. Apologizing doesn't work. It doesn't work.
That's insane.
Apologizing is actually,
I agree with you on little things. Doing a literal Nazi salute to the inch, to the angle, is different.
To the
do you
angle,
think there's nothing? There's nothing to apologize for ever?
No, I think I think
when you see it activating white supremacists, when you see immediately then Nick Fuentes going on his channel and say they're finally giving us the signals we need, they're finally saying go for it, guys.
I think a guy. Let me tell you what.
Wouldn't you want to disavow that?
I tell you what a real signal is. When you go to concentration camps, when you are one of the busiest people on the planet, and you take time to go to a concentration camp, to go to Israel.
He went because he had to apologize for anti-Semitic statements on X.
He
had to apologize for anti-Semitic statements on X. That's why he went.
A guy like that, and by the way, I think that Trump is the same kind of guy. They are not.
That I agree with.
Because you know why? They're not interested in placating the people that are trying to tear them
They're
down.
instead interested in activating whatever misanthrope is going to be on their side.
I learned a lot about it, right? So I managed Kid Rock for a number of years. I worked with him for a lot of years.
That tracks.
Somebody who doesn't apologize for a lot.
That tracks.
And
Kid Rock is the role model now?
On this issue, yes. On this issue,
he's fully
yes.
of the ilk of Trump. He's a guy that doesn't care about the feelings of
people
who he isn't directly related to. He doesn't see himself in the eyes of.
He doesn't care.
Empathy is missing from these people.
He doesn't care about people that are there to tear you down for sport.
They're
or
not
for
there
some
to tear
other
you down
reason.
for no reason. I was a Kid
No.
Rock fan.
AOC decided she was going to be constructive. No, I was
a Kid Rock fan until he just decided to come out against people being treated fairly and equally in our society. I like his music. I enjoyed him back in the day.
We should talk about that maybe when we get to the other topic. Great. because it's relevant. And again, what happened with him is what happens all the time. The media
If you want to be relevant, you can't be an elephant. Oh, whiskey drop.
The media, cheers. The media takes a piece of information and they wrap it with their own editorial. And that's
my own editorial.
And again, that's what they did. They took Elon's spastic move.
You think there's no moment you should apologize for? If he accidentally said the N-word, he shouldn't apologize?
No, I didn't.
So how's this different? If he said the N-word accidentally, should he apologize?
If he said the N-word, it's hard to say that accidentally, but yeah, maybe.
And so Sig Heiling is the same.
He didn't accidentally see how.
Well, you said he accidentally did.
No,
you said he accidentally did. He either did it on purpose or he did it accidentally.
He made a spastic hand gesture that people interpreted
twice
as
in a row
Heil.
To the front of the room and the back of the room.
That people misinterpreted.
One more time for the people in the back.
Misinterpreted again.
Come on, baby.
We're gonna cut in. I want to cut in footage of. Of other people doing
show the full footage though.
Thing.
Them doing a soft hand motion of saying hello to people over there versus like a boom aggressive hit to the chest and then extend as aggressively
as you can. This has nothing to do with DOGE. Let's get back on subjects that actually matter.
So DOGE.
Yeah.
So DOGE, are you okay with the way they are aggressively and chaotically cutting things without first doing studies, without first analyzing, analyzing, or even talking to the organizations to find out what works and what doesn't work?
There's a whole department, the Government Accountability Office of 3,000 people that we've had that supposedly is supposed to check on this stuff. And guess what? They're losers. They don't do it. They don't succeed a thing. And so, look, I look at this, and this is part of having entrepreneurs within the government for the first time and where we can benefit from it. When you have something that's a behemoth like America, where you have decades-long bureaucracy, a rat's nest, I would refer to what we have and what we spend is a rat's nest. And you've got bureaucrats that are trying with every fiber in their being to make sure you can't make sense of it, you can't follow the money. There's a reason why the chainsaw is the symbol of this. And my view is I am here for it. You know why? Because we'll do studies and we will never save any money whatsoever. What happens, and because one of the main things that's going on here, it's not illogical at all. It's what you do in turnarounds in businesses all the time. You go in and you take a hatchet to what's going on. When you have a company that is going bankrupt, when it is on a crash course to bankrupt, it's not a blind hatchet.
The CEO of the actual company will make drastic cuts based upon their intrinsic detailed knowledge of the inner workings of the company.
It's not
no one from the outside comes in and says, "Get rid of this wing."
You're not only are you wrong about that. There are people that are paid to do the exact same thing, and guess what they do? They are
like
a blunt
the Office Space that came in and just
they are a blunt instrument. You know why? Because you can't use a scalpel and actually save money. Look at the fraud, waste, and abuse that they have been finding. What's shocking to me, really what's shocking to me, it's okay. You want to criticize the method of doing it, that's worthy of debate. There is no one on the left that is celebrating when he finds the waste, fraud, and abuse.
Oh, I'm celebrating that. I'm on the left, and I'm celebrating.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
I want all the waste, fraud, and abuse gone. I agree the government's budget is loaded beyond belief.
You know, they just found out that $300 million in SBA loans, small business loans, were given to people under the age of 11. There are people getting rich on our money. People are taking our money. We're here in California. We pay some of the highest taxes in
I've never heard this 11-year-old thing. It's probably more disinformation, like they said that 168-year-olds were collecting Social Security.
They didn't no, they did not. But
Elon
again,
did say that.
They did not say they're collecting. They said that they're on the registry. Some of those were collecting, but what they were saying, the absurdity of people that were clearly dead still on the Social Security registry.
In the way they were reading the code. It wasn't even true in the end.
I don't think
no, that was not true.
Okay.
But let me address your point. So I'm happy to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And no doubt the government is bloated beyond belief and wastes.
No one's ever done it.
That's beautiful.
People are criticizing the only guy that actually figured out how to do it.
I agree with the mission.
You just don't agree with the guy in charge.
I don't agree with the methods. And you said if there's a rat's nest, you can analogize it to a rat's nest.
Yeah.
But if you have a rat's nest
in the
attic of your house, you don't take a blowtorch to your roof and burn your house down.
No, you
don't burn down a whole room in your house.
You take a chainsaw to the rat's nest.
You specifically only remove the rat's nest.
Yeah, but that's what they're doing.
That's clearly not what they're doing when they're having to rehire people they're haphazardly firing.
Okay,
that's clearly not what they're doing when they are closing Social Security offices and getting rid of the ability for elderly people already struggling in this country to verify their ID on the telephone and saying they now have to learn to become computer savvy or go in person.
Do you know the stats on fraud?
And they're clearly not doing that when they fire the people that watchdog our nuclear weaponry, our nuclear weaponry, our nuclear weapon stockpiles, and then have to scramble to find them and rehire them, and don't even have their email addresses and have to find them frantically, let alone firing people from the FAA when we're undermanned in the FAA. Those are egregious, dangerous examples and heartless examples. So you just said, okay, it sounds like you're about to concede, so I'll let you concede for a second. I've conceded on several things.
I would
please
say
be open-minded enough.
There's definitely mistakes have been made. Undoubtedly mistakes have been made. But my view is there's not you can't look at you can't look at a problem that is so entrenched as this one is and try and correct on the margins. I look at what are they accomplishing? How difficult is it what they're accomplishing? How much, I don't know if people have tried or they haven't tried, but here's what I think that they revealed. And I think what they revealed is so much more important. I think that's the way I look at it. What is the trade-off? They overcorrected and they've got to scramble to fix it versus they're looking at a system. There's something deeply, deeply wrong with our system. We have people that are getting rich on our money.
But what's the reason to not take 3 months to just actually deep dive into each agency and each department before you cut it? It doesn't have to happen today.
Okay.
You could do it in 3 months.
Maybe they could have
given them a chance
to
justify their existence. That's all. That's the argument. That's the argument. So that means you're conceding at least at that point.
Yeah,
I'm not against it. I'm conceding on DOGE as a principle.
Okay.
And can you concede that they're doing it in a very childish, haphazard way?
I put it in the category of measure twice, cut once. Right?
Absolutely. That's good advice.
That's a little bit more of measure twice, cut once.
And hopefully they do that going forward, so seniors don't have a harder time collecting their Social Security for no reason.
I think what I came to understand about that, and I think they actually put the phone lines back. But
I have not heard that.
What they were trying to do is a full 40% of fraud on Social Security is through people calling and rerouting payments.
If they're finding so much fraud, why has nobody been arrested for fraud?
Well, no. Oh, you mean from like the
from all
I don't know.
Fraud they're finding.
Listen, maybe somebody is. Maybe if it's small money, we're not
no
going
one's
after
been evaded
people.
for it.
Like I have a feel. Look, we know that people commit fraud on all number of things. Not everybody gets arrested for it, right? Like most people skate on a lot of that stuff.
Right. They're supposed to be fixing that, not just cutting access for poor people and for old people to their money. That's all I'm saying.
They're not cutting it. Look, they made it. It was unnecessarily hard. It was a hardship that maybe it was, again, I'll agree with you that maybe it was too far too fast.
I love that. Should we go to the next topic?
Yeah. Anything? I mean, I really wanted to talk about what's going on with the Tesla dealerships and all that.
Sure, we can briefly touch on that. Great. What are your thoughts on it? I own Tesla stock and I'm being crushed. Yeah. And I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'll tell you what the part that is most alarming. Look, I accept that there are maniacs in the world, right? I accept that because there are. The part to me that is
two of them doing this podcast for you right now, folks.
The part that's really disturbing to me is people in government celebrating it. Not only people in government, there were a few things that to me that were really disturbing. There was the Tim Waltz thing. That was him.
Which was what?
He was on the stage somewhere talking about, and what he said was, I put Tesla in my stock app because I want to get a little charge, by looking at that, and basically celebrating the stock plummeting. What's really horrific?
That's stupid. That's a joke, and Trump and Elon make jokes all the time.
So. Is that really a joke that somebody that was almost a vice president should make? And here's the kicker. The kicker is,
should the current vice president think the current president was the Hitler of America? I think we're making allowances for a lot of stuff these days. Fair point, fair counterpoint. Where's our bar? Is the bar different for the two sides?
No, the bar's not different. But
Tim Waltz shouldn't make a Tesla joke, but the current vice president should think Trump is the Hitler of our country and then sell his soul to work for him.
We're going to you're changing to
I
a
know,
totally.
But it was a great point.
No, it was not.
I loved that point a lot.
But
a lot of people listening.
Some people are.
A lot of people listening love that point. Everyone loves when I talk, and they don't like so much when you talk. That's what people are saying. Okay.
People are allowed to change their mind. But back to Tim Waltz. The kicker of Tim Waltz is the Minnesota Pension Fund is invested in Tesla. Has something like over 1 million shares, maybe 1.6 million shares. So the guy is sitting there rooting for the demise of his own people. By the way, he's the chair of that investment fund. So that's one. And
I'm worried you're talking past your mic.
That's not the other one. The other one was Crockett, Jasmine Crockett. She was another one celebrating it.
You're talking Miami Vice shit right there. Crockett and Tubbs, baby.
That's that. We'll do a show dressed in our way.
Show with Jasmine Crockett and Donald Trump called Crockett and Tubbs.
And I'll just add
I'm not
one more.
as much as I'm a little thick.
Not to get you in trouble with Jimmy Kimmel, but Jimmy Kimmel also.
That was lame when he was encouraged.
It's not cool.
Snickering at the exploding of the car.
It's not okay. It's not okay. It's domestic terrorism. It is domestic terrorism.
I agree with that.
So we've lost the plot. And so when I see that, and when I see the politicians talk about that, their criticism of DOGE is colored by some of this bullshit that they're doing. It's not acceptable. And so to me,
I Jan 6 then, because Trump set the tone, is my point. You have a double standard.
We should do a whole
thing on Jan 6, 100%. Yes. But just a quick point, that's a very large double standard. A late night comedian can't snicker at people lighting Teslas on fire when the current president pretended he didn't lose the election and then encourages people to set the Capitol on fire and break their way into it.
Here's what I'll say about that is there are a lot of people,
call them heroes and record a song with them.
There are people that still believe that Biden didn't win that election
because Trump makes them believe.
No, that's I have my own question marks about it, especially when you look at this election and where did the 20 million votes go? So there's something wrong with the
number
math.
Of people that don't
vote. There's something wrong with the math.
A, and B, if it's true how much you all complain about Biden, maybe millions of people were sick of that administration and shifted. Isn't that what you want in an election? Again, it has to be fraud. But suddenly there was a rampant fraud in our nation, except when Trump wins this time, all the fraud has disappeared. There was no fraud. No, hasn't been mentioned.
I'm sure there's been fraud,
but it's not mentioned. I
don't think it was perpetrated by the Republicans. I actually
the Democrats that did fraud to steal the election last time decided to stay home this time.
You want to talk about fraud? You want to talk about defrauding the American? Why is it this is when I see certain indications, I go, you know what? This stuff is one-sided. When USAID, when they're funding almost exclusively liberal agendas, exclusively, all of the wild, insane, worthless causes that they're spending millions of dollars on.
You mean the same USAID that Ivanka Trump promoted and said was a wonderful
she was wrong.
Organization?
I guess she was wrong. She was snookered.
The organization that's making sure we keep guards on ISIS members in foreign countries so they don't get let out of jails. Totally a left-wing ideology there, right? Or making sure that our allies in African countries the moms don't get AIDS and give birth to AIDS babies and keep our image positive abroad.
Here's what I'll say.
And there was some stupid stuff in there too.
How many decades have we been working on that problem and it hasn't subsided, not an iota? So
which problem?
The AIDS problem.
What do you mean it hasn't subsided one iota? We now have a cure for AIDS.
But
we have suppressive drugs, and we have drugs that make it so you can't, so it's undetectable, and so you can't spread it either, which is literally a cure. We've never even been given the day of celebration of like cure for AIDS in the news, because granted, we both agree the news doesn't want us thinking positive wins and only negative.
We don't want to cure anything.
An iota. It's been an enormous improvement in this category.
So why are we continuing to spend billions and billions of dollars in Africa on this thing? I mean, listen, I'm to be honest, I don't know what the detail of how much money we're spending. All I know is it's interesting to me that we continue, like, for some reason we get on this like hamster wheel of spending money on certain places and it only ever grows.
Not anymore. Trump has cut all the hamster wheels.
Yeah, thank God. Thank God.
Good luck, hamsters.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Yeah.
What's our next topic? Our next topic.
You want to get, since we're all heated, you want to talk about the Arkansas trans bill
Sure.
So the Arkansas trans bill, I mean, I have a little summary of, because I think we should explain what it is, because I have a feeling we are going to, if we're left to, okay, so here's how I have it. It's the Vulnerable Youth Protection Act.
Correct.
Aims to
House
protect.
Bill 1668.
That's right.
In Arkansas.
Aims to protect minors from irreversible medical and social gender transition decisions before they reach maturity. The bill creates civil liability for adults who knowingly facilitate a minor's social transition, defined as adopting a gender identity different from their biological sex through changes in clothing, pronouns, hairstyle, or name, or who cause castration, sterilization. That word, rightfully trips me up. I get nervous when I see the word castration.
It reminds me of your childhood, huh?
And, I got circumcised. Luckily, they just took a little off the tip.
You're very lucky.
Castration, sterilization, or mutilation of a minor.
Okay, but also the bill would allow parents to sue educators, counselors, and even hairstylists who support a gender transition, even by giving somebody a haircut that's non-gender conforming. And ironically, the woman, Mary Bentley, that proposed the bill, has a dude's haircut straight up. I mean, she's a Republican.
Is her name Karen?
Her name is not Karen, and she has basically my haircut. And so that's hypocritical right out the gate.
Well, I appreciate you recognizing, the hair challenged people, on the other side.
I'm happy to.
Look here. I'll get one part where I'll concede out of the gate is the hairstyle part is, to me, it's an overreach. It's an overreach, and it's kind of irrelevant, and kids get fucked up haircuts all the time.
Totally.
And parents do it, barbers do it by accident. But that being said, for me, what does this aim to do? This aims to protect a child from people wrongfully influencing some type of transition. And when we have so many instances, first of all, the amount of people transitioning in certain pockets, it's not like an overall national thing. When you see like a particular school which has a shocking, disproportionate, like statistically impossible number of people transitioning, that to me is what this protects against.
Maybe that school's got a great woman's bathroom. People want in.
Exactly. Is that shouldn't be the reason? I mean,
agree.
Listen,
I'm just joking.
You got to do it the old-fashioned way, right? Like
sneak in after school and use a paper clip, turn the lights on.
Something. I mean,
I get that.
We're getting canceled for that. To me, you have to push back on this. You've got like what you.
You're talking about one particular school. I don't know what school you're talking about.
There's a school.
If it's not a national problem, then it's not a national problem.
Of course, it's near where we are, right?
But if it's not a national problem, then it's not a national problem.
But the reason why it's a national problem is you have people who are activists. You have people that are looking to encourage this. To me, this is a parent's right issue. A parent should be exclusively in charge of their child's decision on this and really many other things.
And I agree with you on that. And part of the bill, to be fair, it holds them civilly liable for aiding in social transition without a parent's consent. So I do agree. You shouldn't be like doing stuff behind parents' back for minors to encourage them to.
Which is a problem we have here in this state, right? Like which are
I agree with you on
governor championed.
I agree with you on that point, but. Do you think a fair middle ground here is because perhaps I am unique or, I'm not part of the majority on this issue when it comes to most liberals, but I do not think that somebody under the age of 18 should be allowed to medically transition, period. I mean, I suppose if they and their parents are on board, but I think that is your brain's not fully formed. So simply on the account of having a non-fully formed brain, you're not allowed to rent a car till you're 25. I don't think you should be able to cut your dick off and hit somebody in the face with it until you're maybe 21 at least, or at least 18.
And we're starting to see statistics of people, like a significant number of people detransitioning. And so
that does happen. I've met people like that, but also some of the numbers of people transitioning are because society's become more tolerant of something that people had to be quiet about.
That makes sense. And by the way, I want people, do your thing. You're not
right.
But what I don't like is when people at school, you know what our education system, like, unfortunately, we have a lot of very progressive people in schools that they are looking to push this agenda. They are. They're looking for, and the reality is, the other thing I would say is, where else could a teacher or an administrator have any involvement on this level with a kid to make these decisions and to encourage a kid to do any of it?
I agree with you on that point too, but I will suggest that a big part of that is in pushback to the aggressive fear-mongering and insanity of people on the right who are so afraid of this bogeyman.
Tell me what the fear. Where is the fear-mongering take place?
Few of them ever say what you just said, which is like, do your thing. And so I think the line should be, you shouldn't be able to medically transition when you're a minor, but you should be able to use whatever pronouns you like. They should be respected. You should be able to call yourself whatever name you like. That should be respected. If you can call somebody Captain Underpants when they're a kid, you can call them Julie if you like. And encourage kids' creativity and identity and experimentation.
And I totally agree with that.
So that's why this bill is an overreach.
But it also, on the flip side, it should not be a capital offense if you misgender someone. We went through some lunatic period of time.
I agree, it shouldn't be a capital
offense. Misgendering was like,
that's already corrected
you get fired.
That's already corrected
because this
But you want to keep it on the issue of the issue, so I agree with you on that. But then on this issue, it sounds like we agree this bill should be shot down because it's...
Why?
Because it's not just about the medical and the chemical. It's about the social. And you just said, do you, and you shouldn't be held civilly liable from calling a woman Bill or calling him he, him.
This doesn't prevent doing you. This prevents encouraging. This is encouraging a behavior that doesn't exist.
No, the bill even just had to be rescinded because it apparently is infringing on people's free speech rights. And so even Mary, who suggested the bill, is having to retool it before resubmitting it. She's withdrew it.
So hopefully they'll get rid of the haircut thing, because I think
and the pronoun thing and the name thing.
What does it say on there? What's the thing about
you can be held civilly liable for encouraging social transition, gender transition through pronouns or names.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like it's a very sloppily written bill that needs a lot of.
And the answer to your thing about where's the fear mongering is acting as though drag queens are a bigger threat to this nation than, say, for example, Catholic priests who actually are touching kids by the thousands.
What is that in reaction to? I'll tell you what that is in reaction to.
Never. It's not one case of a drag queen touching a child ever.
I'll tell you what is in reaction to. Drag queen story time. When a school creates drag queen story time for very young children, You are provoking people.
But
that's not okay.
It's theory, not okay to I agree with you, except there's a wrong fact there. That was another thing totally fear-mongered by the right, because they acted like it happened at school. Never once did it happen at a school. It was never a compulsory part of the school day. It happened at public libraries, and parents had to bring their kids to it. And if you want to bring your kid to an open-minded thing so they can see a future...
A parent can bring their kid to anything short of...
I didn't like that they put stickers on the kids that said, "I'm a future drag queen." I thought that was ridiculous.
It's nuts. But you know that stuff is nuts.
But if a parent brings their kid, you want parents to have the autonomy to do these things.
Yeah, a
so if it's not compulsory, that's the perfect evidence of the fear-mongering. They acted as though this was being forced upon children, and it wasn't.
There are other school districts that are teaching elementary kid. They're trying to teach elementary kids these gender issues, and again, that should be up to the parent.
There should be no gender being mentioned at all.
Exactly. Heterosexual. You shouldn't sexualize these kids at all. That's really it.
I agree.
But the problem is what they're doing is they're taking something that is reasonable. And frankly, there are even transgender people that are saying that the kind of the radicals in the transgender community are kind of blowing it for mainstream trans. Like if you listen to Brianna Wu, she talks about it all the time. They're doing damage to their cause.
The radicals in every cause do damage to their cause.
But the problem is they keep pushing the agenda, and unfortunately, the current Democratic Party, as it exists, it's not you can call it the middle or the fringe. They're allowing the fringe to talk about these issues and to be the voice of the Democratic Party.
And they're allowing the fringe and the Republican Party to demonize people and to fearmonger and to act as though problems are bigger than they are.
You don't hear I hear nothing but respectful talk.
How many
out of
drag
Trump,
queens
out of Vance,
respectful talk?
That's right.
How many?
And I'm not saying he used to. I'm saying he's to me, he's different.
Different this time, you mean?
Yeah. Look,
he is more tired. I grant you that.
I don't think he's tired at all. First of all, that's it's like one of those hilarious things. You have a president, you had a president that was literally asleep for a huge part of the presidency. And you have a guy that in 2 months has done more. Like, we always talk about the first 100 days. And usually that 100 days clicks by for a presidency and nothing happens. You can't keep up with the news. The guy is everywhere. He's tired. The guy is everywhere. He's letting journalists sit in the Oval Office while he's making decisions, ask him questions.
Just as long as they don't disagree with him.
Whatever. That's his prerogative.
Whatever.
Whatever.
So you think it's fine now to only allow access to favorable media?
But he's not doing that. He's not only allowing access to favorable media.
He kicked out the AP from the Oval Office because they didn't want to call it the Gulf of America.
Yeah, well, but guess what? That's not journalism. That's activism then.
That is not activism.
Yes, it is.
The president doesn't get to decree the name of the Gulf of Mexico.
Evidently he does. Evidently
he does.
we can set the
No, he doesn't get to change the international recognition of a name of place. He can say America's calling it that from now on. Yeah. But you can't make Google Maps change it, and you can't make the AP recognize America as the only standard bearer for truth.
But you can kick them out of the Oval Office if if they want to put a finger in your eye, as the AP is prone to do. As AP is
a pretty down the middle fucking report the facts organization.
I mean, I'll switch gears in how they treat Israel, and all they do is bullshit.
They're not great on Israel. I will grant you that.
They're awful.
They're not great.
They're awful.
Okay, so let's bring to our fourth topic. We go back to DOGE.
Okay.
I think we go back to our fourth topic here because we've been going on for a minute.
Yes, we've been ranting.
Yes, and so our final topic is these deportations and whether it is for suspected gang members or just people of non-white descent, or whether...
I'm dying to hear how you defend this. Please.
No, you set the tone first.
Oh, me set
on this
the tone.
topic.
Yeah. Get them out and get them out
who
as soon as possible.
Get who out?
The people that are leading the protests on these college campuses. Get them out. The people that are championing...
What protest specifically?
I'm talking about Colombia. Let's talk about Mahmoud Khalil.
Yeah.
The guy was one of the leaders of CUAD, right? Who were
CUAD?
That's the organization that put out the letter that's basically aligning themselves with Hamas.
Okay.
he was part of the organization that was creating the encampments. He was the lead negotiator. Why was he the lead negotiator? They had seized control of a building. They had held a janitor essentially hostage. They were destroying property. Any of that sound like free speech to you? Does that sound like free speech? Does that sound like protected behavior?
No. So
yeah, get him the fuck out. Get him the fuck out of this country.
But the problem is, and listen, I agree with you on the moral stance, but
the legal stance.
America is supposed to be the land of free speech. That's what supposedly is so important to Elon Musk and so important to Donald Trump.
Sat peacefully and criticized America.
The only problem I have with this is that they have not presented this evidence.
Okay, so
okay, that's the whole difference. No, that's the whole difference.
The guy has 19 lawyers. I know.
I think it's abhorrent to side yourself with Hamas over our ally and the only Jewish nation on earth. You and I agree on that.
Yes.
But what we apparently don't agree is that we cannot give up our values and what America stands for simply because we feel viscerally we disagree with somebody.
What did they do wrong?
And you have to present evidence.
Tell me what they did wrong.
What they did wrong was arrest and detain and try to deport until a judge temporarily stopped him being deported. And the same case for the Indian guy as well from Georgetown, who is also... who's also being deported and a judge has currently stopped. And the same exact thing from the Venezuelan nationals who are living in America, who are, according to the Trump administration, being accused of being gang members from this horrible gang, but they have not presented evidence. And America has to present evidence because that's the main thing that makes America different from every other country that squashes dissent, squashes free speech without giving people rights, without giving people to see a judge, without giving people the writ of habeas corpus that allows them to say, I'm sorry, you have not presented the evidence to make this clear. I agree being here is a privilege. I agree having a green card is a privilege. I agree having a student visa is a privilege. I also believe deeply that America has to be the shining beacon on a hill that Ronald Reagan, Republican president, spoke about it being, that our Statue of Liberty says, give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. We're supposed to be that safe haven, and we need to give people a little bit the benefit of the doubt, innocent until proven guilty.
We don't have to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's not illegal.
Of course it is. That's literally the legal standard for how you find somebody guilty in a court of law. Benefit of the doubt.
First of all, he doesn't need
innocent until proven guilty.
First of all, he does
not
need
guilty
to be
beyond a reasonable doubt.
But that's not the standard for this. He doesn't need to be found guilty of any crime whatsoever. That is not the standard.
I agree.
For deportation. The system
but you need to be presented with evidence.
Okay,
you can't
the system has worked perfectly.
Out.
There's nothing that didn't work.
There's also a couple that's been perfect law-abiding citizens that are being deported. Couples in the news the other day, many of them that have just been, they have kids, they've been here forever, totally law-abiding citizens that are just being removed from the country.
Let's go back to this.
You're okay with that? Do you want America to be this like xenophobic, afraid of people that aren't white country?
It's not. It has nothing to do with being white.
Suddenly the Sig Heil seems a little bit more...
I want people who come in. I don't want people to come in illegally. I don't want people to come into this country illegally.
I want you to come in legally.
Yeah, I'm first-generation American.
I agree.
My parents are immigrants. My entire family are immigrants.
Yeah.
They're all immigrants.
Yeah.
I not only do I respect immigrants, we need immigrants in this country.
Yeah.
We don't create enough people in the country. We need that. So I actually understand it for a functioning country.
Yeah.
That being said, illegal immigration, that's a crime. But
it's like a minor crime.
It doesn't matter.
Of course it matters. Of course it matters. What do you mean?
Is shoplifting a minor crime?
Yeah.
Okay. So if everybody starts shoplifting, like they do here in LA, we had that problem because
we
we fixed it because we got rid of that moron Gascon as a DA who refused to prosecute any crime, and we overturned that ridiculous law that was put in place under, I can't remember if it was Newsom or Kamala Harris when she was AG over here, which basically decriminalized shoplifting. And what happened was Newsom. What happened was everybody started shoplifting.
I agree.
And so a small thing, when everybody does it, is a really big thing. And that's the problem right now with immigration. Yeah, you might, if it was a few people, but it's not. It's millions of people that are coming over this border. It's coupled with the fact that you've got sanctuary cities that are draining money that now the citizens don't get to use it. Look at what's happened here in California. Because the volume of these, it's not that big a deal, but the volume of millions of illegal immigrants coming in, and now couple that with this idiotic state has decided to give them free health care. There is a shortage of like $9.6 billion that now the governor is scrambling to try and fund. So that little problem, when it happens on a scale, is a huge problem.
Okay. I like the way you said huge like Trump does.
Huge.
The word is huge with an H in the front of it.
Huge. I like it with a Y.
Okay. So why you believe this to me is a little bit mind-boggling, because I agree with your premise, but everyone now agrees with the premise. I think the country's actually become a lot, not everybody, but the country's become a lot.
Because it was a sieve. Our border was a sieve under Biden.
I think we all agree with that. Even
and the Democrats were crying. They couldn't, they blamed Trump. That's what's amazing. They blamed Trump and because they couldn't pass that bill. And meanwhile, they didn't pass anything. And
talking to your mic, because I want your points to get the full opportunity for people to reject them.
Trump, on his own, through executive order, reduced the inbound by like 97%, almost overnight. And somehow the Democratic Party blamed Trump. It's so hilarious. They are the party. For what? They blame Trump for tanking that legislation.
Your mic now to like make your points louder.
Yeah, that's right.
I can talk right into my mic too.
I can't. See, I can't even win with how far or how close.
Regular distance from your mic, like we did during sound check. Not this fucking all of a sudden like. Let me just make my point very aggressively into the mic.
Let me make my point very aggressively.
I'm dealing with someone on the wrong side of history. It's very challenging for me emotionally and mentally.
Let's get back on track.
Okay, so can you then agree with this point? Okay, because I would love
to make a point. Go ahead.
I'm happy to, but you're going to keep talking about Trump. People are blaming Trump. You're very upset about the way he pronounced the words. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Okay?
Now he's blaming me for that.
Okay. Yeah, so we can agree that the border shouldn't be open, that is dangerous, and we need to stop that. And I think it's good to stop that. Both sides nowadays in the mainstream.
What about sanctuary cities? How do you feel about sanctuary cities?
It's not a topic another day. I'd like to get to my point I'm trying to make. You asked me to make a point. Okay. My point is this. Can we also agree that we are supposed to be the nation that is the moral leader of the world, that is a refuge for people in need, that a lot of illegal immigrants came here to save their lives? Not all, but some came here to save their lives, and you would do the same if you were in a multi-year line to try to cross the border to save your family's life from drug or gun violence, and you had a chance to pay someone $1,000 to go across the border. You would take your family and do anything you could to save your family. So it's not a crime on the level of actually trying to harm people. You're trying to go to a safe haven on this planet to seek refuge, which is literally on our Statue of Liberty.
What percentage of people fall under that category?
My point doesn't matter. My point being, so I agree with deporting the actual criminals. Can you agree we should just present evidence so that we are therefore morally still superior to other places that don't do that and just throw people in jail or deport them, and that we can have compassion for those who are already here, who aren't breaking our laws? So get rid of the gang members, get rid of the people, if indeed this Khalil guy, it's proven that he was passing out Hamas printed and approved.
This videos him as the lead negotiator to try and undo the siege that they laid to one of the buildings in Colombia. The guy's on video. He's holding himself out as a negotiator. He's a leader.
To be so, I'm fully with deporting him. So my question to you is then, can we, just like you agreed with DOGE, can we just a little bit keep our values and have a little bit of chill as the great leader in the world, and don't need to frantically freak out and do these things diligently, and just say we're still going to allow somebody the right to say, guess what, I'm actually an upright citizen. I actually am not in this gang. I happen to have this tattoo that was given to me when I was a child. I'm not in this gang. It's some of the tattoos are on the list. They're assuming they're in gangs because they have like I don't know, certain symbols that are very common tattoos, just for a small example. And we can actually just case by case basis, not just demonize people blanketly because we're afraid of the other or because they're here. Can we have that middle ground that respects our values and our safety at the same time?
So I think this worked out according to the rule of law. The guy, Khalil, had...
All the judges so far are shutting it down and saying it isn't.
No, but
if Trump had his way, they'd be deported.
But that's part of how it works. A writ of habeas corpus is part of a process. Right. Khalil, he wasn't denied legal representation. Right. The guy had lawyers. The lawyers went and did their thing.
Get them out.
Yeah, no, get them. I do want them out.
You said, who cares?
No, I did not say who cares. I said there's no. They don't need to present any evidence of a crime. They don't need to present any evidence of a crime.
They do have to present evidence of what they're claiming.
No, there is evidence, right? They have to support their claims, right? What's the standard? Clear and convincing evidence is the standard that they need to show it. Yeah, and what I'm saying is that's how it happened. They seized the guy. The guy had a lawyer.
So you think it's good the judges have stopped them from taking the fully out of the country?
Here's what I don't like about what's happening with the judges. To me, it's crystal clear that there is activism behind some of these judges. It is. And when you have the judge,
the decisions seem to be based on simply the writ of habeas corpus and saying these people need to have
you have to bring that. You actually have to bring that a writ of habeas corpus in order to present some people are, but my concern is
like only 30 of the Venezuelans deported to El Salvador so far have been able to be part of a law group that is forming that.
Well, so then look, sounds like the system is working. Sounds like the system is working.
Great, but if Trump had his way, it wouldn't be working that way.
But also, under
the
rule of law,
system and all of its checks and balances, and not Trump having the power to deport whoever the hell he wants.
But you can.
So you agree with that?
It's the Secretary of State has very broad rights in this. He does. He has very broad rights. I actually don't mind the speed. You know why? Again, the problem is huge. And let somebody have a lawyer. And let the lawyer do their thing. What's that?
You finally pronounced huge correctly.
Let the lawyer do their thing, and it sounds like the system is working.
Great.
What I don't understand is what's the outcry?
Well, you agree?
Why is everybody
because
so
the
up in
outcry
arms?
is if Trump had his way, it wouldn't be stopped. It wouldn't be the check and balance. It would just be gone forever. Boom. Scare people into not using their freedom of speech.
But you seem to think that there's something out of the ordinary with that.
Do you not?
That's how the system works.
No, but
you have a prosecutor, you have a defense attorney.
Because Trump thinks that's bad.
I don't think he thinks that's bad.
He does.
I think when you have an activist judge who is doing things like, do you think that any lower level judge should be able to stop a president from enacting rightful powers of his?
Yes, if they're doing it based on the law and not based on political opinion, then yes. If it's based on political opinion, you can prove that. Then no. So then here's the.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's.
I'm referring to my notes.
Do you think we have to wrap up because it's been about an hour? I think.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure time wise, but I think it's been about an hour. No, it has been. It's been maybe over an hour, maybe an hour 10 even possibly. You know, this is an incredible conversation. Now you're pulling notes out at the very end of the podcast. I think you're good without the notes.
I wanted to give you the rundown of the judge and all of the cases. And if you look at what the judge did, it's clear that this judge is an activist.
These are Democrat judges.
By the way, judges suck also.
Plenty of Trump-appointed judges also shut his shit down.
No, I don't think that's true.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yes, 100% they do.
Okay. What was the point?
In many of the things that he was accused of himself, there's Trump-appointed judges.
Okay.
The grander point is simply, do you think that even if somebody disagrees with your position, so even if somebody is totally anti-Israel and totally pro-Palestine, and if they're not Palestinian and they're not actively advocating for terrorist organization Hamas, but they just want to advocate for a free Palestine, should they be able to have campus tent cities or protests or whatever the fuck they want to do?
They should be able to have protests that do not impinge on other students and other citizens' rights.
Agreed 100%.
That's it.
We agree on that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Wow, we did it.
I love it.
We solved the problem. Did we solve? I mean, look, just because you're on the wrong side of history for most of these issues, our audience will get over it.
We're all mirrors, and so clearly that is you.
Is this you're rubber and I'm glue? Is that argument? Are you ending with the rubber and glue argument?
Which is like Trump's whole move, by the way. That's what Trump always does. That's not me. In fact, I'm actually the smartest, and you're the dum-dum. That's literally Trump's whole move. His whole strategy.
Make America great again. I think it's going really well.
I think America's pretty great to begin with.
It is, by the way. It is, but it could be greater.
No, but great again means it's not great. Great again means it's not great. You just say make America greater.
Yeah, great. Oh, it doesn't.
So you hate a slogan. Perfect. I'm so glad.
I'm so a slogan
glad
writer yourself.
You agreed that Trump's slogan is very anti-American. I'm so glad we got there. And there's a lot more to obviously dive into. The world unfolds and our nation's news unfolds at a rapid rate these days. Are there any last thoughts you'd like to wrap up before we close this thing down? Yeah, and look, also, where can people follow you and all the things?
That's good. So you can follow me at Lee Trink on Instagram and X. I don't really fuck with TikTok that much, although I should try. My TikTok is lee.trink.
Okay.
Yeah, those are my accounts, and I think we did okay. I think we did pretty good. We didn't leap out of our chairs.
No.
At each other.
Yeah, I think we did good. I think we were able to share our points, make clear our differences, and also concede on a few things. I think clearly you conceded more to my stuff than I conceded to yours, and I think that's a win for me.
I didn't want to take advantage of all your weak arguments.
That's really sweet of you. Thank you. You can follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram, GLEIB, and on X as well. TikTok, I'm more active than Lee, but my TikTok's my weakest. I'll be honest. Threads, I'm not on it. Blue Sky can go suck it.
I believe in you.
I appreciate that so much. And you can subscribe to my solo podcast I do sometimes with guests, sometimes solo, called Last Week on Earth, where I summarize the whole world and don't have to deal with somebody who disagrees with a lot of the shit I say. I just get to kind of unfettered be me. And that's nice.
That is nice.
It is really
all right,
nice.
Guys. Well, we'll be at this again next week. So next week we will see you again on the wrong side of history.
Indeed. And I'm so glad you admitted it. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time.
Right on.